Welcome back again, my friend. This is session 3. We have done the first 3 columns of the PAN process in session 2, and now we're going to do column number 4. Column number 4 is arguments against atheism, against the claim that God does not exist. We're going to look at 2 basic arguments. Number 1, the question of from nothing. You see, if God did not create this universe, then the only option is that this universe came from absolutely nothing, total nothingness. There is no other option to that. Some people wonder whether we can put a little of something there, but if you do that, it will not meet scientific criteria of a real origin. So either God created this universe or it came from nothing. The second one is the statistical analysis. In other words, what are the chances that it could have happened by itself? So number 1, absolutely nothing. So I am not the one who is saying the word nothing. Look at these authors. Bill Bryson, in the book A Short History of Nearly Everything, says, "So from nothing our universe begins." And Victor Stenger, his words, "So where did the laws of nature come from? They came from nothing, the void out of which the universe arose." And Quentin Smith, once again, we had seen his words before, "The only reasonable belief is that we came from nothing, by nothing, and for nothing." Pretty sweeping words that kind of cover everything. So when I read that, I asked myself, what is that statement based on? Think, nothing, just a mere opinion. No basis except a configuration of his mind. So even then, we are not going to dismiss it. As inquirers, we take it and inspect it and evaluate it. So we're going to look at it in 3 ways. Number 1, physical. Is it physically possible to get something out of nothing? Let's test it out. You and I will test it. Let's build the Great Wall of China. But I will give you no material, no builder, no time, no space, not even you. Wow, you're going to turn around and say, that is not fair. Hey, wait a minute. Even I am not in existence. Now, how did the Great Wall of China come about? Well, honestly, you will have to agree that absolute nothingness as a starting point is totally physically impractical. How about philosophically? Do you know that absolute nothingness cannot be imagined? Why? Because your mind and your brain are the factories that produce imagination. So how can you imagine the non-existence of your mind while you are using it to imagine? In other words, a person who imagines is always there. Try it and see. Imagine being in the Bahamas. Well, you are there. So when you say, I am imagining absolute nothingness, that's an impossibility because you are there. So nobody can actually imagine absolute nothingness. And if you cannot imagine it, then how can you propose it as a scientific theory? Think, my friend, even fantasy fiction must first be imagined before it is written down. So if you say you cannot imagine, and philosophically we cannot imagine absolute nothingness, then we are hitting at something that is just quite impossible. So philosophically, absolute nothingness as an origin is a total impossibility. How about mathematics? You know, science may be represented as common sense wrapped in mathematics. Those are the words of Edgar Matthews, himself a scientist. Especially in physics. Statements in physics must have a mathematical basis, otherwise it's not considered science. For example, you just can't use the word gravity The word gravity really means nothing unless you put some numbers to it. It is the force that directly attracts two bodies, and it is directly related to the mass of the two bodies and inversely related to the square of the distance between the two bodies. Can you see that you have to put numbers and mathematical equations, and only then it is science. So in physics, scientific statements are made, but they are considered scientific statements only if backed by equations, numbers. So let's do that right now. Let's take these two theories, make the statement, and then make an equation out of them. So here are the two statements. Atheistic proposal: nothing did nothing with nothing and produced everything. Whereas the theistic proposal says someone did something about that nothing and then produced the whole universe or everything. So the sentences now will be made into a mathematical equation, and I want you to see how reasonable is the equation to you. The atheistic proposal says 0 plus 0 plus 0 is equal to 100. Whereas the theistic proposal says x plus y plus 0 is equal to 100. Tell me honestly, which equation is more possible as an equation? Equal. 0 cannot be 100. I've put certain digits there on the screen. The first two series are exactly the same. 6 zeros and 1. The first number is equal to 1. The second number has the same 6 zeros and 1, but it's equal to 1,000,000. What makes the difference? And what about the third one? All digits are zeros. So at the end, that series is equal to 0. So what do we mean when you look at those three numbers? It means that 0 as a starting point is valueless. Only a number can give value or substance. So absolute nothingness is 0 without any real numbers related to it as a mathematical premise or starting point is worse than absurdity. You know, people have tried to say that things came out by itself from nothing. I have a book here. If you look at the title of the book, it says A Universe from Nothing. Now the author is a well-known scientist. His name is Lawrence Krauss. And he has written this book trying to establish the idea that this entire universe came from nothing. But I'm going to read you certain sentences from the endorsement in that book. Here's the first one. It is from Nature, a very prestigious periodical and journal. It says, "In this nothingness, there are many wonderful things to see." Really? Can you see anything in a nothingness? How contradictory is that? Neil deGrasse Tyson, one of the great theoretical physicists in the United States, actually said the truth, and his words are also in the book. He says, nothing is not nothing. Nothing is something. Oh boy, so what do we do with the title? And Richard Dawkins, a very vocal atheist, in the same book he says, the title means exactly what it says. But that is false, because Neil deGrasse said, Tyson said, that nothing is something. It is not nothing. So the title really should read A Universe from Something, not A Universe from Nothing. So absolute nothingness is physically impractical, philosophically impossible, and mathematically worse than absurdity. So the Latin aphorism which says, ex nihilo nihil fit, is correct. Translated, out of nothing, nothing comes. So the origin of our universe was not absolute nothingness. How about the statistical analysis? Chance is subjective. We say, what are the chances this will happen? What are the chances that will happen? But it is also a mathematical premise. It is an equation. It's a formula. You put the numbers in and out comes the chance. It's called probability. What are the chances it will happen or it will not happen? In scientific evaluation, the number is set approximately at 10 to the power of 15, which means 1 followed by 15 zeros. So in your calculations, in scientific calculations, if an event will happen 10 to the power of 15 times, will not happen once, then they say it will always happen. And if it happens only once in those circumstances and will not happen 10 to the power of 15 times, then the conclusion in scientific evaluation is that that event will not occur. When you want to enunciate a scientific law, the number goes up to 10 to the power of 50, 1 followed by 50 zeros. So if only one chance occurs, or if there's only one time it will occur in 10 to the power of 50 chances given to it, then we say it's an actual impossibility, statistical impossibility. So how big are these numbers? Let me give you an example or some indication. If we tested the law of gravity by dropping this pointer onto my palm once per second, do you know to do it 10 to the power of 18 times would require 15 billion years. To do it 10 to the power of 20 times would require 1.5 trillion years. So 10 to the power of 50 is a gigantic number, huge. It is so big that scientists usually don't question the number, although it is arbitrary. So with that in mind, let's say it again. If there's only one chance of it occurring and 10 to the power of 50 chances of not occurring, then it is statistically impossible. And if it does occur, then it was done by an agent or an agency. So with that in mind, let's look at a few statements. Here is Michael Benton, a scientist most probably from New Zealand, who checked something out. And he said, it would require at least 100 functional proteins. What is the meaning of that? The simplest cell to be alive would require at least 100 functional proteins, giving a maximum combined probability of one chance in 10 to the power of 2,000. Not 10 to the power of 250, 10 to the power of 2,000. Amazing? Did you say, wow? Maybe you didn't. So I'll try again. Proteins are made up of amino acids, building blocks. They have to be linked together to form the chain, which is called the protein. The simplest cell would require about 10,000 amino acids in that chain. Now, amino acids have links. It could be a left-handed link. It could have a right-handed link. Levo, dextro for those of you who are scientists. When we make amino acids in the laboratory, it always comes out as a racemic mixture. That means equal left-handed to right-handed forms. Nobody knows how to, in a laboratory, make more left-handed or more right-handed. Now listen to this. All 10,000 amino acids in the cell have to be only left-handed. In the chromosome is made up of also units. They are called nucleotides. These nucleotides also have links, right-handed and left-handed. And we need about 100,000 nucleotides to make the complete chromosome for that cell. Once again here, all 100,000 nucleotides have to be only right-handed. So what are the chances that 10,000 left-handed amino acids and 100,000 right-handed nucleotides got together at the same point of space and time to form that first cell? Here's Ralph Muncaster and his words. The probability of assembling 10,000 left-handed amino acids and 100,000 right-handed nucleotides is 1 chance in 10 to the power of 33,113. And we already said that 1 is to 10 to the power of 50 is a statistical impossibility. Did you say wow? Well, let's try again. And this time the whole cell. Harold Morowitz, a microbiologist and a mathematician, calculated what the chances were that we could get all the components of a cell together at the same point at the same time to form that cell. Only one cell. Do you know how many cells you and I have? Anywhere from 75 to 100 trillion cells in our bodies. We're talking about just one cell. So what are the chances that one cell would come together? All the components brought together? Here it is. Harold Morowitz, a microbiologist, calculated the odds of a cell randomly assembling under the most ideal conditions to be 1 chance in 10 to the power of 100 billion. And we said that 1 is to 10 to the power of 50 is an impossibility. So if 10 to the power of 50 is an impossibility, then 10 to the power of 100 billion, which is required for one cell to form, how many impossible equivalents would that be? Do you know how many? 10 to the power of 99,999,990,950 impossible events for just one cell to form. So, here's some logic thrown in. If only 2 possibilities exist and one of them is correct, then if A is possible, B is also possible. If A is improbable, B becomes probable. If A is impossible, B becomes fact. Let's check it out with just a simple equation. Suppose I give you a mathematical test. 9 minus 3, and I will give you 2 possibilities as answers. A, 15, and B, I will not even show you the number. But remember, one of them is correct. So which would you choose? B, of course. Why? Because 9 minus 3 has to be less than 9 because there's a minus mark over there. So 15, impossible. Therefore, B is correct even if you never looked at it, never laid eyes on it. Think. So here's what Sherlock Holmes said some time ago. 1889, in the book The Sign of the Four. How often have I said to you that when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. So here's the conclusion here. If it was statistically absolutely impossible that even one cell was synthesized by random chance, then the truth is that if it did occur, and it did because we have hundreds and millions and trillions of cells, then an agent did it. It did not happen then by chance. So what grade would you give that? I gave it, these two, 9 out of 10. You can give your own grades. So now we've done all 4. Let's put all 4 together. Column 1, for atheism, 1. Column 2, against the believing side, 7, but we shifted out the 7 to column number 3 because it moved out, if you remember the arguments. Column number 3, for the believing side, I gave 8, and column number 4, against the atheistic side, number 9. So here's how we put it together. Atheism would be column 1, for atheism, minus column 9 against atheism. 1 minus 9 comes to -8. The theistic side is the points for theism, which was 8, and the 7 that came from column 2, 15. Here's what I'd say, my friend. No matter what numbers you gave, it doesn't matter. the atheistic side will always be negative, and the theistic side, whatever the numbers, will be positive. So the words of Socrates, you go where the evidence leads. Go where the argument leads. Now a few words from those who have looked at it. We both looked at it. Now how about the others who have looked at it? Here are some quotes from a philosopher. My discovery of the divine has proceeded on a purely natural level, without any reference to supernatural phenomena. A pilgrim of reason and not of faith. You will notice I have highlighted the word reason, and in the next few quotes I have highlighted the words reason or intellect or mind. These words were by Antony Flew, who wrote a book, There is a God. And the subtitle of the book is How the World's Most Notorious Atheist Changed His Mind. Because this is what he said. The leaders of science over the last 100 years, along with some of today's most influential scientists, have built a philosophically compelling vision of a rational universe that sprang from a divine mind. And then another statement, the mind of God, a vision of reality that emerges from the conceptual heart of modern science and imposes itself on the rational mind. Notice what it does not say. It does not say the conceptual heart of some religious writings and imposes itself on the blindly believing mind. No, it says the conceptual heart of modern science and imposes itself on the rational mind. How about some quotes from scientists? Here's Albert Einstein. In view of such harmony in the cosmos, which I, with my limited human mind, am able to recognize, there are yet people who say there is no God. But what makes me angry is that they quote me for the support of such views. And Max Jammer, talking about Albert Einstein agreed with Spinoza that he who knows nature knows God, because the pursuit of science in studying nature leads to religion. Remember, you use your mind when you study. How about Charles Darwin himself? The last sentence of his book, The Origin of Species, says this: there is grandeur in this view of life, with its several powers having been originally breathed by the Creator into a few forms or into one. And that is when you look at the animals and plants and species on this earth, when he turned his eyes to gaze up into the heavens, this is what he said. He found the impossibility of conceiving this immense and wonderful universe as the result of blind chance or necessity. When thus reflecting, I feel compelled to look to a first cause. Remember, we talked about cause in the section on logic. I feel compelled to look to a first cause having an intelligent mind, and I deserve to be called a theist, a believer. These are the words of Charles Darwin. Back to Antony Flew. Life, consciousness, mind and self can only come from a source that is living, conscious and thinking. Matter by itself cannot produce conceptions and perceptions. So at the level of reason and everyday experience, we become immediately aware that the world of living, conscious, thinking beings has to originate in a living source, a mind. And now these same words, or nearly similar words, are echoed by a Nobel Prize winning scientist. His name is George Wald. Listen to his words. The stuff of which physical reality is constructed is mind stuff. It is mind that has composed a physical universe that breeds life and creates science-making, art-making, and technology-making creatures. So a philosopher and a scientist in full agreement. How about one of the greatest scientists who lived in our age, the late Stephen Hawking. He said these words, "Even if there is only one possible unified theory, it is just a set of rules and equations. What is it that breathes fire into the equations and makes a universe? You still have the question, why does the universe bother to exist? If you like, you can define God to be the answer to that question." And then he says these words, "If we do discover a complete theory, which is the holy grail of physics, grand unified theory, if we should find it, it should be in time understandable in broad principle by everyone, not just a few scientists. If we find the answer to that, it would be the ultimate triumph of human reason, for then we would know the mind of God." So the ultimate triumph of human intellect is to attain to the mind of God. So the conclusion then, based on facts and reasonable logical thinking, the existence of the supernatural is valid and makes the better sense. Therefore, the existence of God, rather than the non-existence of God, is a rational, credible claim. Go, says Socrates, where the argument leads. So, if you form the jury, here's what I would say. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, here laid before you are the points and arguments, the facts and the reasons. The weight of evidence is clear and convincing. I rest my case. Thank you.
If you have enjoyed this presentation with Dr. Subodh Pandit and wish to watch more of this unique 13-part series for free online, visit the website godfactorfiction.com. That's godfactorfiction.com. If you would like to order this fascinating series on DVD, it is now available from Whitehorse Media. To order from within the U.S., call 1-800-782-4253. Dr. Subodh Pandit has written 2 eye-opening books entitled Come Search With Me, Does God Really Exist? And Come Search With Me, The Weight of Evidence, which further explore the topics of evolution, theism, atheism, and religion. To order these books from within the U.S., call 1-800-782-4253. That's 1-800-782-4253. If you live outside the U.S., you may also easily order them on Amazon.com.